People wonder why I will put things out there when people don't agree with me, or if I have an argument and they think like, oh, you didn't get the better side of that argument. It's like, I don't care. That's what life is about. We are all going, oh my gosh, this person destroys, this person did that. We're in that kind of culture. I'm not there anymore. I don't really care what you call me. And I don't really care what you think about me. I care what I think about me. And that experience taught me that. So yeah, it was a chrysalis. My entire life is a chrysalis.
Welcome to the Midlife Chrysalis podcast with Chip Conley, where we explore how midlife isn't a crisis, but a chrysalis, a time of profound transformation that can lead to the most meaningful chapter of your life.
Welcome to the Midlife Chrysalis. I'm Chip Conley, and whoa, today's episode is sizzling. Sizzling is the way I describe it. It's going to be a salacious interview with Don Lemon. We've never met, but boy, does it seem like we've had 20 years of history together based upon the conversation you're going to hear in just a moment. For those who don't know Don, well, you haven't been watching TV. Very famous CNN journalist, newscaster who's gone rogue and independent and done very well in the process of building his own brand. So I think you're going to like this one. Just know that it is pretty unfiltered, and I hope you enjoy it. Don Lemon, welcome to the Midlife Chrysalis. It's an honor to have you here.
Hi, Chip Conley. Midlife chrysalis instead of crisis. I like that.
Yeah. Well, there's the part of the reason for that is because the U curve of happiness research shows that after a low point around 45 to 50, people get happier after 50. Has that been true for you?
I guess, yeah. Yes. 100%. I'd never thought about it, because I don't really have a problem with aging. I kind of like it. I like getting older. Now I look at my body and I go, oh, I looked this morning.
It looks good, dude. It looks pretty good.
Thank you. I know, but I was leaning over the bathroom counter this morning, just waiting because I have a little steam shower, waiting for the steam shower to heat up. And I looked and I said, ooh, back in the day, that would not have been there. It would have been up here. But, this and all that. But yeah, I'm good. I actually don't feel, I'm a man of a certain age. I'll be going into my sixth decade. My sixth decade. I'm 600 years old, right? I'm going into my sixth decade, and I can't believe it. I look at myself and I'm like, I don't feel it. And I think I look younger than my parents. I feel the same way that I felt when I was in my 30s. And so I really don't have an issue with aging. I want to be healthy. I'm not overly, I used to work out a ton, and I found out that I'm in better shape and I'm happier when I just do everything in moderation. And so I never really had, but yes, am I happier? Yeah, I am.
Yeah. You grew up with your mom and your grandma. Is your grandma, her name was Mary?
Her name was Mary. We called her Mommy.
In Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yes. Well, she was in Port Allen, which is West Baton Rouge. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about your upbringing, because as I was reading up on you a little bit, I said like, oh my God, this dude and I have a lot in common. You worked at McDonald's in high school. You were high school student body president. Check for me as well. You were a Republican in college. Wow. I want to hear about that part. I worked for a Republican congressman in Washington, D.C. after my freshman year. I wasn't a Republican, but I worked for a Republican. You like Crocs.
I do.
So we have a lot in common. Tell us a little bit more about your upbringing and how the hell you became a Republican in college. I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, I don't know if you remember, do you remember Alex P. Keaton?
No.
Which is Michael J. Fox was.
Oh, yes, of course. So were you sort of a Michael J. Fox?
I was sort of a Michael J. Fox, preppy blue jacket with gold buttons and white bucks and khakis, that kind of thing. And I grew up in the South. The South is very conservative. And at first, I didn't like the Reagans. And then the longer he was in office, I began to like him. And then he did the whole thing with the HIV and AIDS, and I didn't like him anymore. However, I wrote him once, told him that, I really liked him and that I had registered as a Republican and people thought I was nuts and blah, 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 blah. And I got a letter back from the White House and my mom comes in and she says, what's this? And I said, what do you mean? What's this? She goes, this is a letter from Ronald Reagan. And I said, okay. And I opened it up or whatever. I have it somewhere in my memorabilia thing, but I was young. I was naive. And I thought it was cool. And maybe I thought it was kind of a counterculture thing to do back in the day to have someone like me. And then once I became more mature and learned and I understood what was happening, I quickly changed. I changed that. But yes, I was, and I still have a bit of a conservative streak.
Yeah.
I think like most people, I think most people have a conservative side and they have a liberal side, and they're not so extreme as the media and the politicians would lead people to believe.
And what part of you is conservative, would you say? Socio-political, whatever.
I think I can be it's kind of weird. It's, as a gay man, I can be a bit conservative sometimes socially. Sometimes I have conservative thoughts and I go, well, I understand that. I understand why they're saying that. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. And then people go, what, you're crazy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm more on the conservative side, except for lately, conservatives have become the party of cancel culture. I don't believe in cancel culture. And I believe in, like, if there's an issue that someone gets in hot water for, everyone's like, shh, can't talk about it, whatever. I'm like, no, let's talk about that. This is an opportunity to have a constructive conversation about it rather than being quiet about it. Like, I would love to interview Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's mad at me. She won't do it. And then sometimes some of the conservatives who say crazy things, I would like to interview them. Or sometimes some of the things that people get canceled for, I would like to interview them to have like a productive conversation, because many times through those experiences, people will gain a point of view, right? They'll have an epiphany, or they will change their minds through that process. And if we keep ignoring it and we keep canceling people and not allowing them to go through that process, I think that is inhibiting, and it's not, it goes against what we're supposed to be about, what the world is about. And that's evolution. We keep evolving. We keep going. It's about progression and not regression.
And so in college, you had a girlfriend, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I had several.
I did too.
The whole 9 yards, the whole thing. I did. I went there. I'm not a what do you call it? What is it? I'm not a gold gay or whatever you call it.
Gold gay. What is a gold gay?
It's like a gold and there's a platinum or something. When you, like, some people said I haven't been with a woman, or a lesbian will say I haven't been with a man, or I've never even seen the other parts or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You're telling me things I don't even know, so at what point, so you knew at a young age that you might be gay, but
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, and at some point along your maturity path, you came out, and we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But what was it like as a closeted Black gay man? Were you dating women? Were you dating men, but not talking about it? What was going on? I mean, we want the DL on the DL. The down low talk about from Don Lemon.
Well, I was doing what a lot of people do, or did, and what a lot of Republicans do now. I was dating women, like, in public, and then privately, I was, secretly doing things with guys. But because back then, there was a lot of shame around it, especially in the Deep South in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. And so I had girlfriends. And the weird thing is, this is a weird, very strange thing. You don't know necessarily when biology is going to catch up, right? When the real thing is going to catch up, because of the hormones, and because I was so young, I had no problem being intimate, right? And then I remember the first time when I became, someone who was actually of a certain age. And then I realized, like, I'm not really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And it was a real wake up call for me, because it was someone who was a girlfriend. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gay.
If you're enjoying the conversations we've been having on the Midlife Chrysalis, I have a valuable offer for you to consider. My book, Learning to Love Midlife, 12 Reasons Why Life Gets Better with Age, is a national bestseller. And right now, you can get a copy for just the cost of shipping. It offers stories, research, and practices to help you move from a midlife crisis to a midlife catalyst, and see this stage of life not as a decline, but an opportunity to flourish. Claim your copy today at meawisdom.com/midlife book.
That's when I really realized it. And I remember.
What age were you at that point?
Probably sometime around high school. high school or early college. I just remember being at home alone and we were messing around and nothing was happening. And before it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It always happened. And then, but I think also too, maybe it was her, maybe I wasn't attracted to her. That really sort of crystallized the moment for me.
So you, from a young age, I think you were a fan of Max Robinson, and you would actually videotape the news so you could actually watch it. And so you knew at a young age that you were interested in the media, and maybe even specifically being a journalist and newscaster. And that must have been hard to know as you were moving into your adulthood that this is the career you want to be in, and it's really hard to be out. So what was going on for you psychologically during your 20s, 30s, and up to the point when you wrote your seminal book, Transparent, which came out around age 45?
Well, that was a long time,
Yeah, it was a long time.
That was a long time. So in college at LSU, I knew what was up by the time I got to college. And I would hang out with my friends. I would date girls. I would go to the bars with them, all of the dude bars and all of the frat guys, and we would go. And then right down the street.
Were you in a fraternity, Don?
No, I was not in a fraternity, but my friends were in fraternities. I went to LSU, which was not an HBCU, and so it was majority white college, and so frat life there was really big, and sorority life really big. There's fraternity row and sorority row, and I was senior class president, and I got all these letters from the fraternities saying, "Come join, come rush," or whatever. And then when I got there, they're like, "Oh, you're black." This was LSU in the '80s. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was not happening for me. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this shit, whether it's white fraternity or black fraternity. It's bullshit. And so I didn't. But I would go out. We would go to this place called the Bingle because it was LSU Tigers. And we would hang out at the Bingle, and then everybody would get smashed. And then I would ultimately sneak off and go to the alternative club, which was like 2 blocks away. And I would sneak around and run and go into the alternative club. And that was sort of mixed. It was just like these sort of unusual punk rockers or, counterculture kind of folks. And then across the street was the gay bar. I think it was called Neiman's then. And
Neiman's, like Neiman Marcus?
Yeah, like the first time I went, I snuck across and I went to Neiman's and my whole world was like,
this is so. Wait. I can't believe we're having this conversation. So when my first time coming out was at age 22, I was working in New York for Morgan Stanley for the summer. I was between my first and second year of business school. I was living at 86th and Riverside, and it was 4th of July and 1983. So serious AIDS crisis. And I walked from 86th to Riverside all the way down to Uncle Charlie's, a place in the village.
Oh my gosh. I have an Uncle Charlie story.
Oh, okay. We're going to go there. So who knew? Okay. Thank you. This is fun.
Did we meet at Uncle Charlie's?
No, we didn't. Well, I wish we had, because I would have dated you, dude. I mean, you're hot. So I went into Uncle Charlie's. First time I'd ever been in a gay bar. Only had dated women previous to that. Was dating a woman during that summer. And I walked in and it was like the Wizard of Oz. It was like, when the house came down and all of a sudden Technicolor, in Munchkinland. And I met a guy, a Puerto Rican guy named Victor that night, and we spent the summer together. And so that was my experience of my first gay bar and then my first boyfriend for the summer.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't New York City amazing that way?
Oh, it is.
Because I had a very similar experience. So I would house sit for my aunt in late high school, early college, but it wasn't until it was all around the same time, 83, 84, 85 in there. So I would go to the Neiman's, and that was eye-opening. But then when I would go to New York and house sit for my aunt in the summer, they take these great vacations. They'd go to Egypt for like 4 weeks and whatever. And so I would house sit they had this townhouse in Harlem on Convent Street in Sugar Hill. And I had that entire like 4, 5, 6-story house to myself. And so one night I sneaked downtown and I went to Uncle Charlie's. Right. And
that was your first gay bar in New York?
That was my first gay bar outside of and in Neiman's one night. And my mind beat.
Wait, you were underage. You were doing that Uncle Charlie's on me.
I was not underage. I was 18 years old. 18 was a drinking age in Louisiana.
Oh, but in New York though.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I never even thought about it.
We're not gonna. No one. Statute.
Anyways, I got in. I got in. So, it could 19, 20, 21. It could be, like I said, 85. That would make me 20, sort of on the edge. That was probably why I didn't go in high school, because I was too young. I think maybe it was just like around, I was 21. And so I went and I was so nervous. And this was during the time of, the big buff body. Everybody had the big buff shaved body and, the big blonde or whatever. Everyone looked like a G.I. Joe. And I didn't look like a G.I. Joe. It's just like, I didn't think I was hot. I was skinny. And I look back on pictures now, I'm like, damn, you were a twink and you didn't know it. So I met this guy, and that was like my first real experience. I met this guy, and we went home. It was a white guy. Discovered a lot of things about myself. And I don't know, I've never seen him again, but it was also kind of frightening because it was during the AIDS, whatever. So we were very careful. Luckily, I'm alive and, in good health. And I'm so happy that we have the drugs now to take care of folks who are positive. But anyways, I digress. That was my experience around then. And I couldn't wait to move to New York.
Yeah, me too. I loved New York. So you had then 20 years, more than 20 years of living this life. And then what was it that led you to writing this memoir, this coming of age, coming out story in your mid 40s? And were you going through a bit of a midlife chrysalis, meaning the idea that something was shifting in you, and instead of it being a crisis, it was a doorway and maybe to a whole new life? And are you happy you walked through that doorway?
Well, as you know, like, especially if you're our age, right? Mm-hmm. There was a dual life that you had. Yeah. So finally, when I left, I would hide the gay part from my friends. Mm-hmm. And I kind of lost touch with my college friends. And then I moved to New York, and then I reunited with them. And that's a whole nother thing. But I finally I realized that I had to, in order to be who I was, who I should be, and to achieve or accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish, that I would have to leave Louisiana. And especially after my journalism professor told me that I'd never make it as a journalist. And I said, oh, okay. So I left LSU, I left Louisiana, and I moved to New York. While I was in New York, I was out amongst friends and some coworkers, but not to everyone. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell the people who were closest to me. And eventually a college friend called and said, hey, Donna, I was living in New York. He was in Louisiana, or I think still in Louisiana. He said, I hear that you might be gay and I don't care. And that's how I reunited with my college friends. And then I eventually found a boyfriend that I'd been dating for a couple of years, and we broke up, and I was heartbroken. And my mom was kind of my best friend. I would talk to her every day, even though we didn't live in the same city or state. And I told her, and she said, what's wrong with you? You just don't sound the same. And I said, I'm just not happy. And she said, why? And I said, because of my relationship. And she said, with who? And I said, John. And she goes, what kind of relationship? And I said, he was my lover. And I started crying. And then so I came out to my mom, and then she said, well, I won't. I said, don't tell Dad, don't tell anybody. And 20 minutes later, I get a call. Hi, Don, it's Dad. I'm like, oh, fuck. And she told him, and she told my sisters and whatever. And then I was like, okay, I'm out. It was weird because she was very much in control. And then she kind of fell apart later, it was just like, oh, I wanted grandkids. And she went through that whole thing. And then now she'd be like a P-flag mom, because she is all in. She's like, talks to my husband. I love you guys, all kinds of things. She sends presents to the dogs, and so she's all in, and she's, people can change and they do evolve. So that's what happened. And so by the time I wrote that book, I was out to my family, but I wasn't out publicly. Right. You know what I mean? People at work knew, for the most part. If you were friends with me, I didn't really talk about it at work, but people knew. And then someone asked me to write a book, a publishing company. And I said, okay. And I said, what is it about? It says, we want to know. You're a man in mainstream media, and you're a Black man, and not many people get to this level, and we want to know what it's like. So I started writing about it. And then I got to the point about when I left Louisiana. And I was like, God, how do I write this? And I said, I just have to write it. I said, I have to have the same standard for me that I have for everybody else. I have to be honest, and I'm not going to lie in this book. And so the publisher said, write it. The editor said, just write it. We don't have to use it. And I wrote it. it came time to, there's like, okay, we're going to go to print. Do you want this in there? And I said, you know what? Fuck it, put it in there. But I thought I was going to lose my livelihood. I thought people weren't going to want to watch me. I thought I would get fired. And the exact opposite happened. I'm sure there were some people, I'm sure, who would, had negative reaction to it, but it was overwhelmingly positive. And it gave me a sense of autonomy that I didn't have before, and a freedom. I mean, it was just like the weight was lifted.
Yeah. So this was
nobody was
been a crisis.
Nobody was
out.
Nobody. It was me. And then Rachel Maddow was out, I think. Yeah. But Rachel wasn't Rachel like she is now, right?
Yeah.
She sent me flowers, and yeah, I think that was it.
What changed inside you? How did you evolve this chrysalis moment where you started, maybe you were actually emerging from the chrysalis and the butterfly is there? Like how did you know it affected your midlife? Because you were right there in your mid-40s when all this happened.
Like I said, it gave me a sense of autonomy, but also it was very similar to when I told my mom. If I told my mom that I was gay and she was okay with it, then nothing else mattered. And when I wrote the book and I started reading the book to I would read The Galleys to my mom, and we would sit and read, and she's like, and I would say, Mom, can I tell about your affair and that I'm a product of an affair? And she goes, yeah, tell it all. Tell it all. She goes, I have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be ashamed of. And so once my mom said that was the real reason where I said, print it, F it. But still, I thought, I'll just have to go do something else in life if I can't, continue with this career. It gave me a sense of freedom and that I had never experienced before, and the confidence that I had never experienced before. I used to think before then, I used to think that I didn't care what people said about me. But there are levels to that, because then I really didn't care about what people have to say. I don't care about other people's criticism. But it's also from having those types of moments, Chip, or having, that moment or those types of moments in your life, people wonder why I will put things out there when people don't agree with me, or if I have an argument and they think like, oh, you didn't get the better side of that argument. It's like, I don't care. That's what life is about. Like and so we are all, going, oh my gosh, this person destroys this person did that. We're in that kind of culture. This person's a jerk and whatever. I'm not there anymore. I don't really care what you call me, and I don't really care what you think about me. I care what I think about me. And that experience taught me that. So yeah, it was a chrysalis that I lived with. My entire life is a chrysalis.
Yeah. So I wrote a book.
Ongoing chrysalis.
Yeah. I wrote a book called Learning to Love Midlife, 12 reasons why life gets better with age. And what I'm hearing is one of the reasons life gets better with age is you have no more F's left to give. You don't get any more fucks. There's an element of like, you know what? I'm just going to be who I am. I care about things. I care about people, but I'm going to be less possessed by being a people pleaser. And I think women in particular, but I think gay men actually go through this as well, in terms of we've tried to do what we can to be the best little boy in the world. We've done what we can to actually fit in. And in your case, you have that the double fitting in of being a Black person as well as being gay. And there's an element of like, wow, this is who I am.
It's not just being a people pleaser. It's also being an overachiever. A lot of gay men I know are overachievers. You gotta be the best at everything. So, because it's an armor that you build up. And yeah, I've been a people pleaser, but not anymore. Every once in a while, I feel it like creeping in. And I go, why do I care?
Yeah. So, what else has gotten better with age for you?
Sex.
Okay, tell us more. Dude, you're going there. I love this. So for everybody to know, Don and I have never met before. We've just communicated by email and text. So the fact that Don's going there on this call with me is very much appreciated because, again, why not? What kind of path are you carving through midlife? Our free Midlife Pathfinder quiz helps you discover which of 8 archetypes best describe your approach to this stage of life and what that means for your next chapter. It only takes a few minutes and your results may surprise you. Find out your archetype now. It's quick, it's fun, and it might help you see your journey in a whole new light. Take the Pathfinder quiz at meawisdom.com/quiz.
Well, I mean, sex, because you know who you are and you know what you like and you know what to do. And,
Yeah.
and you know, it's like sex with a novice is not really that much fun. I mean, you know, it sort of wears off, right? So, yeah, the sex is good, and it's not just about getting to the end. It's about all of it. It's about the beginning, the middle, and the end. You know, I don't care like anymore. It's like, oh my God, when I take my shirt off, is this person going to think I have a good body or not? I don't fucking care. I don't care. You know, let's just have a good time. But I'm also married now, so it doesn't really matter. I'm off the market. But so, and then also what's gotten better? Confidence has gotten better. I actually think that I get better looking with age. I think
you do. Black don't crack, girl. I mean, you look really good.
Thank you. You know, I looked at, you know who Steve Scalise is, right?
Yes.
Steve Scalise and I went to the same college. He was in the same fraternity as my friend. And
from Louisiana, a Republican congressman from Louisiana.
We're the same age. He was born in October of 65. I was born in March of 66. I look at Steve Scalise and I say, you know, it just gives me, I'm like, I don't look like that. And I know, but I think I would look if there weren't.
I don't think he's going to give you he's going to let you interview him again after saying this.
Oh, whatever. They don't want to interview with me anyways, because, you know, they're afraid of the truth. I feel I don't look like that. And so I'm like, I don't feel that age. And I think that's a lot. I think that has a lot to do with it, that I don't have secrets, Chip. I don't have any sort of weight on my shoulder. And I think that is very helpful. I'm very open-minded. I allow people to be who they are. I accept things for what they are. And I think that has a lot to do with remaining youthful, even as you are aging. I love getting older. I don't want to reach a point where I want to be immobile. I want to be mobile, and I want to have my wits about me. Other than that, the alternative is not to be here. And I would prefer to be here and living the best life I can at whatever age I might be. I would not want to go back to my 20s.
No.
Unless if I knew what I knew now, perhaps I wouldn't want to go back to that time.
So let's talk about something you said a couple of years ago, but it was during the 2020 election. It was about Nikki Haley being past her prime.
No, it was 2020.
Was it 2024?
Or
2024. Yeah, it was 2024 because yes, of course. So that was not long ago, actually.
It was in 2023 that it happened.
Yeah, 2023. So if you could take that back, would you take it back? Let's set this up, because what you said, and again, this is the only time I'm going to ask you.
You can ask me anything. I'm glad you're asking me this question, but
okay, it was about age. And so the question was, you said that maybe she was past her prime, and she was, and something about women maybe in their 40s might be past their prime. And it sort of blew up. You got a lot of shit for it. And I want you to just sort of maybe unpack that a little bit, because this podcast is really about aging and about, not men, women, and everybody in between. So how do you feel about that now?
Well, I wish I could have been clearer and people could have understood. And I wish the company that I worked for would have stood behind me rather than making it an opportunity or predicate to try to marginalize me in a certain way, right? To try to restrict me. But if you go back and look at that clip and besides the headline, if you really go back and look at it, what I said is, I don't believe that. So my point is that society believes that, and Nikki Haley should know better considering the way society treats women. And that was the point of it. And so she's saying that Joe Biden is too old. She's being an ageist, but society also thinks that she's old at a woman who is 51 years old. That's what society teaches us. I said, I don't necessarily believe that. Don't shoot the messenger. And the messenger got shot. That's all that I meant. I don't think women are past their prime at any age. You can do what you want. I think for me personally, I'm a very logical, rational person. So, and at someone who is of a certain age, I am past my prime. It's okay for me to know that. It's okay for us to be able to say that, because some people feel like, oh my gosh, how can you say that? And I'm so hurt by it. No. I can't run.
What does that mean, though, Don?
That means for me, what it means is that when I think about it, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I could run 10 miles and not be out of breath. That is fact. When I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I was sharper. Now I have to recall things. And so physically and mentally, there is a time when we are firing on every single cylinder. And as we get older, that goes away. And that's okay, though. And so look, I'm saying that about me. I'm not saying that you may feel differently. It could be you at 70, 80, 90. And basically that's what Nikki Haley was saying about Joe Biden, is that he was too old, that he was past his prime. That's what she was saying. And so when someone says that about her, she gets upset and then she fundraises off of it. So that's all I'm saying. But it's okay for me. I'm a different person. And so for some people, maybe that hurts. But we have to be realistic about what happens to us. Now, I do think that I get better looking as I get older, but I'm a different person now. I'm not the same person that I was in my 20s, 30s, or even 40s. And soon I won't be the same person I am in my 50s.
So it is true that, mental acuity and being able to be fast and focused does actually decline with age, but wisdom actually can grow with age. And this idea of crystallized intelligence,
100%.
You're able to connect the dots. I mean, do you think that women are held to a different standard than men when it comes to age?
100%. A different standard, and it's unfair, an unfair standard.
Talk about that.
Because again, my point, men can have kids at any age, and it's always that, oh my gosh, men age like fine wine. And then they don't say the same thing about women. And my
you have
point
silver
is
foxes. You have a silver fox, but not a silver vixen. Like a silver.
And so
that's right.
That was my point. Like, don't you know that? Like, Nikki Haley, why are you doing that? Why are you pointing out something about somebody else that people have been saying the way, for centuries here in the world, that a woman has to be a certain age when she's in her prime. That's it. That's all I was saying. So I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to talk about that. But it wasn't at any point where I was saying that's what I believe.
Yeah. And there's lots of different forms of prime. So there's, prime, especially there are a lot of amazing female politicians, Nancy Pelosi being one of them, who had Nancy Pelosi's prime was certainly in her 70s and early 80s.
I think Nancy Pelosi may still be in her prime. Did you see how she handled that reporter the other day that asked her?
Yeah. Thank you for unpacking that.
Nancy Pelosi's a badass.
She is a badass. So let's talk for a minute. We've talked an awful lot about other things, but the state of the world, the state of media, the state of you going independent and building the Don Lemon brand, which is blowing up in all kinds of wonderful ways. If you could prognosticate to where we are, say, 5 years from now in 2030, in terms of media, in terms of politics, in terms of society, where do you think we're going to be? Are we the trend line has been seemingly pretty bad, but do you have some hope?
I do have hope. You mean, where are we going to be just in general in the world or in the whole media landscape?
Media landscape, but let's focus on the U.S. Let's say in the U.S., do you have what's your feeling 5 years from now in terms of the nature of media, but also the nature of the socio-political world and, how divided we currently are?
Well, I think successful part of media and the people who are in media will be somewhere between independent journalism or something that is free of corporate influence. And you can see that happening now because there's just too much of it and people are sick of it, and they can tell when people are pulling their punches and on and on and on. So I think that's and then people are narrowcasting now, and they want to get information from people they trust and they like, and they don't necessarily trust what they're seeing in the mainstream media right now. And so that's good for folks who are like me. The whole you said socioeconomic
and political. Yeah.
And political. Well, I will tell you the world is about evolving. It's about evolution. It's about recreating and procreating and whatever, and otherwise then we die. So if anybody thinks that we're going to go backwards in anything is sadly mistaken. The world will continue to evolve, and the truth will come out, and people will start to figure out that they're being bamboozled by this current administration, as they are finding out now. I do believe right now that this whole thing that's happening with Epstein and other things, that the spell is being broken for the sort of cult power that Donald Trump has over and the MAGA movement has over people. So what do I see in the future? Like physics, the pendulum swings one way and then it swings the other. And just as hard as it swings that way, it's going to swing back the other way until it eventually corrects itself. So I think by 2028, we're going to have a Democratic president, and a Democratic president is going to get in there and it's going to have to fix the Supreme Court, whether that's expanding the court or whatever. And so if Republicans get mad at it, so be it. They're going to have to, because look at what happened. And so I think we'll be in a state of correction for the next decade or two. And then, we'll get back to normal, because this is certainly, a sort of upset the apple cart. This was like a meteor that hit us, and we've got to pull ourselves together from it. So I think that's where we'll be, at least in the next 10, 20 years.
Will you ever retire?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Especially now. I mean, why do I have to retire? Right, Boomer? I mean, I'm in my home studio. My dog is here. I'm earning a living. I get to hang out with them. I get to speak to the people I want to speak to. If I don't want to do something, I don't have to. And I love what I'm doing. Why would I ever retire? I'm still in my prime, Chip.
Yeah, you are. So yeah, it's very interesting, our relationship with retirement these days. When people were doing backbreaking, mind-numbing labor, getting to 60 was like, oh, thank God, finish line. I can now go live in Sun City and, play golf and have martinis at lunch and play bingo at night. But we have completely shifted this narrative. And you're a Gen Xer, you're an older Gen Xer, I'm a younger boomer. And our generations don't want to do that. We often want to try something new around age 60. I want to ask you 2 last questions. 10 years from now, what might you regret if you didn't learn it or do it now?
I can say what I might have regretted. If I had stayed in traditional media, I would have regretted staying in so long, because now I have this freedom to do, which is kind of a weird sort of, it's not retirement, but you get the benefits of being retired because you don't have to go into an office and you get to set your own path. So I might have regretted that. There's, I always say I have no regrets, and I really don't. If there's one thing I wish I would have done, I guess that's a regret, right? I wish that during COVID, I would have taken the opportunity to travel more and do my show, because the opportunity was offered. I could have moved anywhere in the world or whatever, as long as there was a good connectivity, and I could have done the show, because lots of the shows were done from, my home studio. So I could have been at a home in Florida, or a home in California, or a home in Hawaii, right? And I wish that I would have taken that opportunity to do that, but unfortunately I didn't. But that's it.
We learn our lessons.
And I maybe kids.
Having kids.
One.
Yeah.
Having kids. Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to have a 13 and 10-year-old with a lesbian couple.
Nice.
So
congratulations.
Okay. Last question. So let's say someone younger than you, they could be in the media, or they could be a Black gay person from Louisiana, or they could be just a friend of a friend. They come to you and say, hey, Don, I'd love to have tea and coffee with you next week. And I'd love for you to come to our time together with a bumper sticker, a wisdom bumper sticker, not a literal one, but more like a figurative one, a wisdom bumper sticker, something that you have learned maybe the hard way, because our painful life lessons are often the raw material for our future wisdom. What's the bumper sticker that defines Don Lemon's wisdom? And what's the origin story for it?
Okay, this is so weird, because when we connected, Chip, I said to you, what did I say to you?
We talked a few different times.
No, when I dialed in, what did I say? Can you see me?
You take your shirt. You were taking your shirt off because you were going to change your shirt.
Okay, so
are you going to take your shirt off in front of the camera now?
So the shirt that I was wearing has the exact.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see the shirt.
The shirt that I was wearing has the exact thing on that you were asking me about, and that is. And I think
show us.
I will, and it sums up the conversation how I feel about everything when you talk about prime and all of that, and how I respect people of every age. But I'm realistic about myself, and I don't have the same. I don't believe that everyone has the same standard that I have. And so people may think that their prime is whatever age they want to think. So I'd explain that. This is how I feel about aging. This is my saying, and this is my show logo.
Old people be knowing.
And then it has a Don Lemon logo there. Old people be knowing. We know shit. So that's wisdom. We know. We get our spidey senses are sharper. We know. And so all of this, if I could say bullshit that's going on, we see through the bullshit. I can tell when somebody's bullshitting to me. I can tell when someone's a good person. I can tell whatever. I can see around corners as a man of a certain age, because I'm old, and old people be knowing. That is what I would tell. So enjoy your youth. Enjoy your youth. You can do all those things. You can run 10 miles without dying, right? But however, and some people can do it. I mean, people run marathons in their 90s, right? Enjoy your youth. But there's something that you can only learn from remaining on this planet, surviving, and that is wisdom. And so that will come one day. And so no matter what happens when you're young, there's always something to look forward to, and you have wisdom to look forward to. And so just put yourself in a position where you can get to that point in your life where you're like me and the devil may care and you have 0 F's to live, because old people be knowing.
Yeah. Old people be knowing that is gonna, I want to get one of those shirts. One of these days you and I are going to get,
go to donlemon.com and click on merch, and you too can have one.
Okay, there we go. There you go, guys. donlemon.com. The merch is right there. Someday you and I are going to watch All About Eve together. I know you love that film. I do too.
Every line. Do you know it?
I mean, I don't know every line. No, you do though.
Every single line.
Wow. The fact that you know that movie as well as you do, and you love Judy Garland, dude, you're a gay man. I can tell you.
Of the gay. I love Judy Garland. I think Judy Garland is one of the best singers and performers ever. And, the weird thing people talk about, voices like, Whitney Houston's incredible voice, Barbara Streisand has an incredible voice, Aretha Franklin and all that. But it's also in how they did it. I think the most perfect voice that ever was Whitney Houston. But Judy Garland, you feel her life coming through.
Yeah.
That microphone, right? And you see it. It's just, I remember when I discovered Judy Garland beyond The Wizard of Oz. And that was,
how old were you?
Oh, I think I was either late high school, early college. I think it was early college, Judy Garland live at Carnegie Hall. And I think I bought a CD player and I went to the CD store and they had the unedited version of that. I put it in a CD player and I've never taken it out. Now I stream it, but yeah, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, and it starts with that, when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. So that was Judy Garland is amazing. I think she's fantastic.
Having just heard you, I would say the one regret you may have if you don't do it in the next 10 years is you're supposed to be a Broadway performer. There you go. Oh my God.
Broadway.
I can feel it. I
would love to do Broadway.
Don Lemon, thank you for joining us.
Done, Chip Connolly?
We're done. I hope that wasn't painful. That was like not all you're done.
For months we've been, and my schedule was crazy, and I had to reschedule a couple of times. I apologize for that, but that's it. That's after all of that.
All of that. Listen, dude, people are going to love this. They're going to love the unfiltered Don Lemon, the truth teller, and the beautiful human specimen that you are. You are a moral beauty. I said that to Maria Shriver. I will say that to you. You are a moral beauty.
Oh, thank you, Chip Connolly. I hope to get to meet you in person. You're out west, right?
I'm in Santa Fe right now. I'm in Santa Fe, Baja, San Francisco, Austin. I get around. So
yeah, I want to talk to you about. We'll talk offline. I want to talk to you about.
Let's talk about Austin, and I'll come visit you in New York. All right. Thank you. Okay. I did not expect that. I did not expect that episode to go as personal as it went. And, I will admit a long time ago when I was watching, not that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, I was single. Don was single. He had come out and I was like, you know what? He could be boyfriend material. So I do believe, and he and I probably were separated at birth because we have so much in common. So my first lesson is he used the word evolution 2 times, maybe even 3. And I think that was interesting because this is, not something I would have expected him to use because it's very much of a personal growth kind of word. Things evolve, people evolve. And so I think one of the beauties of, if you look at Don and from his, humble upbringing in, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, being a Republican in college, learning over time that he had to be closeted, he's evolved. And one of the things that's very clear about him today is there's that, he even said it, his confidence, but it's just his sense of who he is. What the beauty of just showing up and being who you are, and whether people like it or not, you just do that. And I feel very similarly in my own life that I can do that. And hopefully you can too. Second lesson is no more F's left to give. No more fucks left to give. It is one of the 12 reasons why life gets better with age in my book, Learning to Love Midlife. And I think, that's where Don is right now. I think in many ways, it was that experience with Elon Musk, he was going to be doing things with X, and it was the experience of the thing I brought up to him, the Nikki Haley comment about not being in her prime, that had him get to a place where he said, like, I don't need to deal with all the politics of traditional media. And I think one of the things that people appreciate about Don, and sometimes some people don't appreciate about him, is he just sort of says it like it is. Again, I think that's something that is true of us as we get older. We have unvarnished insight. And that brings me to the third thing. Now, I thought he was going to take his shirt off and put the other one on, and that would have been interesting. And we would have gotten more YouTube views as a result of that. But no, he just brought over what he had taken off before we started recording, which was this t-shirt that says, "Old people be knowing." The idea of wisdom. His wisdom bumper sticker is really about wisdom. Is about the fact that as we get older, ideally we get wiser. Hopefully the world is better off for that. Many of you know my wisdom definition is a metabolized experience, mindfully shared for the common good. And for the common good is such an important part of that. Wisdom is a common good. It is meant to be shared, and it's meant to make all of us better. So I hope that you found a little nugget of wisdom, a microdose of wisdom in this episode. We'll see you on Wednesday for Wisdom Wednesdays, where I have a conversation with Derek Gale, the CEO of MEA. It's a short one. So the beauty of the Wisdom Wednesdays is they're short, and so you can listen to them very quickly. And hopefully we're delivering a little bit of wisdom to you. Wishing you all the best. See you on Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to the Midlife Chrysalis. This show is produced by Midlife Media. If you enjoyed this episode, help us spread the word by subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite platform.